Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now, Andrew? Are you kidding me right now?
Goodness gracious.
Are you kidding me right now?
We did something right, John.
What did we do right? Explain this to me.
What a day to roll out our pregame and postgame coverage. I mean, how about that? Goodness, great. Tremont Mark with
wow.
One of the most iconic performances I think I've seen in a minute. Like, that was just an unreal performance start to finish from him.
If it's like, folks, we are going to try to get to all of your questions and comments, but can you believe that?
Goodness.
Tremont Mark, 35 points on 8 of 15 from the field, 17 of 22 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds. And the game winner for the Arkansas Razorbacks, when A&M took their first lead, with how much time was it left?
I guess it was like 7.3.
7.3, yeah.
Somewhere around there. It was 7 seconds.
I'm going to be honest. I was like, it's over. It's over. Like, because it's just, Arkansas does not bounce back from those types of games. Arkansas does not bounce back from that type of situation where you give up it wasn't a buzzer beater, but it was a dagger where you had, what was it, a 14-point lead, I think, at Arkansas in the second half, 20-point lead in the first half.
20.
And for them to blow the lead, like, just seems like it's a tradition like no other.
And it was a gradual. It's like you could almost see it coming the whole time because they were chipping away. It wasn't like one big run where A&M just stormed back in with a 20-2. It was, they kind of chipped away, and Wade Taylor just continued to throw up attempts that looked like he wasn't even trying to make it, and they would go in. And I mean, if we're going to talk about Tremont Mark's performance in this, Wade Taylor had such a bizarre game here. I mean, 13 for 32 for A&M. Kind of willed them back into it. There was a point in the second half where he had, I think, 14 of their 15 second half points. I mean, there's just a lot. There's a lot to process here, but
yes, there is.
All that matters is kind of what we said coming into this is Arkansas needs something to build off of, and if this isn't that, then I don't know what is. Again, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty for the reasons that we kind of thought. We thought it would be a little bit of a slugfest. I think I predicted it would be like 67, 62 type of game. Looked like that was going to be the case for a while there, but I mean, second half was just chaos. I mean, Arkansas gave up like 50 points. What was the score at halftime? 44-32?
Yeah, it was 46-32.
46-32. Arkansas gives up 45 points in the second half. Gets outscored 45-32. But
just, wow. Wow. You know what? We talked about it on the show today. Arkansas needed that so bad.
Oh, man.
They needed that so bad. Fans needed that. This team needed that. And I know it wasn't pretty. You had a total of 50 fouls called in this game. I was off by 2. I said 48. 50 fouls called in this game. And for Arkansas to go down and then to have a buzzer beater, great shot by Tremont Mark. And you're right. I'm trying to think of a performance like that I've seen from an Arkansas individual player. Like, we've seen some great performances, but even in the times where you saw some high-scoring affair from Arkansas players, it was in blowout fashion maybe. You know, I think it was Stanley Umude had like 30 points on the road against Georgia, something like that.
Yeah.
But to not only have 35 points, but to hit the game winner on top of it.
Yeah, all of it put together, too. And honestly, I'll be honest with you, the fact that he has 0 assists kind of makes it better and funnier. Like, it was like he was playing, he had 0 assists, and I'll be honest, I don't even know if he really had any passes that could have been assists. I don't remember him moving the ball a ton, but it was like he was like an old man at the park who was just like schooling. I mean, just putting dudes in a blender, pulled out every type of mid-range pull-up jumper he could possibly attempt. That's one thing we know about Tremont Mark is he likes to take those pull-ups. He was in his bag tonight, John, as the children say.
Yes.
I mean, he was finishing stuff that just didn't even make sense. I talked about Wade Taylor throwing up attempts that looked like he wasn't trying to make it. Some of his attempts were so bizarre. It's like, why'd you even do that? But he was just in his zone, man. And we saw him get into this zone really in that North Carolina game earlier in the year in a losing effort. Was it North Carolina? He had that game against where he had scored like 34 in the Bahamas.
Yeah, so. That was also the game he got hurt, if I'm not. Is that the game?
It was the game where he had to go to the hospital in a different country,
which is never good for anybody to ever be a part of.
But honestly, you know what it reminded me a little bit of those Mason Jones games.
Yeah,
Whenever he was
yeah.
just cooking, and it was like everyone just kind of knew. I mean, down the stretch, right, it was obvious Arkansas was going to him. A&M just kept fouling him too. I mean, 22 free throw attempts. And what's crazy is a lot of those were just reach-ins once they got in the bonus. I mean, they were in the bonus for almost the entire second half, it felt like. Man, just so much to process, so much to get into. I mean, let's talk about the rotation. I mean, that was the biggest. I mean, we can go back to the beginning here for a second, but Arkansas comes out with the starting lineup they started the year with. L. Ellis at point guard, Devo, Tremont Mark, Trevin Brazil at the 4, and Chandler Lawson at the 5. We wondered where he was going to be, and there was Chandler Lawson. He was there, and he played a good bit. L. Ellis, he was there. He played a good bit. We saw them kind of go back to square one, and we assumed there'd be a time Muss would shorten up this rotation, and I think only 8 guys, maybe 9 played in the second half. Graham got in there late, so 9 guys played in the second half, but I think only 7 played in the second. They shortened that rotation and kind of just said, hey, we're rolling with this group. And I think that was early on. That felt to me like the story of the game. That changed a little bit in the last 5 minutes as chaos ensued. But look, again, it's not pretty. It's not perfect, but I think we summed it up well. It's what Arkansas needed, and it's something they can build off of, which is just more than they've had to this point. So I don't know if I'm ready to say this team's like all the way back in yet, but what a fun, I mean, hey, it was a fun moment. And there hasn't been a lot of those lately, John. So we're going to enjoy it while we can. And man, that was just unreal.
That's the type of game where it was not a fun game to watch for the most part. It was not a fun game that if you're a fan of the game of basketball, I think I saw War Machine, our guy, say he's like, this is not what Dr. James Naismith had in mind for like pretty basketball. But to go out and like, even if we said today on the show that Arkansas was going to win tonight 78-77, everyone would be like, yeah, well, you know, I'd take that. Hey, a win's a win. It wouldn't have been the fashion that they thought, but for it to go that way, and I'm with you. I'm not coming and saying, oh, man, Arkansas so back. You know,
that's not what we're doing here.
No. We're not going to play the video of Devo. No, we figured it out. It's struggling. We figured it out. Like, we're not doing that. But, you know, you got to take it in stride. You got to take, you know, step by step. And for this team, again, you don't want to blow leads. I get it. But what was the thing about this team that we've talked about with the runs and when adversity hits them and they just fall flat on their face? They just let it happen. Like they just let it fall. And we've seen that already in SEC play. They weathered this storm made to the very end, but this is a type of confidence boosting, morale building, coming together type of win to where it goes from everyone's just devastated and has no idea what to do in life to suddenly, okay, maybe, just maybe this team's got something left in them. Maybe they got something left in the tank. Maybe they can figure some things out. And maybe, just maybe, this is the type of game and the type of win that can get them going in SEC play. It's about how they respond after tonight. But for them to come out on top and to win in that way, you just got to give credit where credit is due. Arkansas, but mainly Tremont Mark, played a phenomenal game.
Well, and the thing, we got to give A&M their credit here because they had a huge part in this game being a positive result for the Arkansas Razorbacks. You know, Arkansas got up 30-10 at one point, and so you see that score and you must think, oh, Arkansas must have just came out on fire. They must have just been firing on all cylinders. Really wasn't that way. I mean, it was 6-0 at the first media timeout, but it was like Arkansas needed a little bit of time to settle into the game. But A&M, I mean, I think they started 0 for 13 from 3. They finished 6 of 29 from deep, which sounds bad because it's under 21%.
Right.
I promise it was actually worse than that sounds. It really was bad.
It was.
A&M looked drunk, man. They looked like they were just they looked like a team that was playing in a snowstorm when they've had, you know, in a time when they're coming off a big win and all of a sudden it's Tuesday and you're in Fayetteville and it's 14 degrees. Like they looked like a team kind of coming in on a little bit of a hangover, and Arkansas, I wouldn't say they took full advantage of it because they ended up trying to blow a second half lead, but it's the type of game where if you're a competent team, you have to take advantage of that. And in the first half, Arkansas definitely did that. Got a little hairy there second half, but hey, Arkansas found a way. Maybe lucked into it. Maybe you can make that argument, but you know, like we said, all that matters is Arkansas got their first SEC win, and now at least they have something that they can go from moving forward. I mean, there's at least a stepping off point. You can't do it. We can't talk about any of the hypotheticals of what this team can do down the stretch until they start moving in the right direction. And as weird and potentially ugly as tonight was, this was a step in the right direction, which at this point we'll settle for.
Yeah, you're going to take it any way you can get it, because a win is a win is a win, as they say. And you got to go along with it. I don't know. We may get busted for this. I'm going to play back the video and the highlight of it.
Let's do it.
And see how it goes. Because when you have a hit like that, when you have a moment like that, buzzer beaters don't come around all the time for Arkansas anyways, especially when they're on the positive end of it, tapping on the other side. But let's see if we can get this to play and check it out.
4 seconds. Here's Mark down the lane, hangs in the air, got it! Wow! Woo! And that is your ball game. Tremont Mark wins it.
Onions, double order, sauteed, Bill Rafferty type stuff right there from Tremont Mark. What a play.
It's good to see this team having some fun. Good to see some positive body language. See this team kind of rallying around each other. It's good to see stuff like that. I felt like that's one thing. So the crowd. Let's talk about the crowd for a second.
Yes, absolutely.
Snow crowd, so maybe not your peak Bud Walton experience, not the same that you're seeing at the Duke game, but I thought, given the circumstances, about as good as you could ask for, really. I mean,
yeah,
we've been out here. The roads are not great. We drove back during a little bit of that second half. Roads still aren't great, but I felt like it was a nice little crowd given the situation. I love that they did the thing where they let the fans come down to the bottom bowl and fill that up a little bit, and Arkansas finally gave this crowd something to cheer about, and you could feel that. And potentially it's what saved them down the stretch. You can make that argument for sure. And I thought the energy from Arkansas's bench and just kind of Arkansas's vibes and body language was a lot better too. And, maybe the crowd had a little bit to do with that, but I felt like this was a nice, I don't know what happened between Saturday and Tuesday. It might've just been as simple as Arkansas playing an A&M team that had a rough performance, but I think Arkansas can at least build some semblance of confidence from this. And so it's just really encouraging that we don't have to keep talking about, can this happen?
Yeah.
Can Arkansas turn around? Will they stop the bleeding? Like, we can finally, we know what this team is. It's flawed, and they still don't have much of an identity here, but they at least finally got down to it and played the good players tonight. So that was encouraging to see.
Thank goodness. Yeah. And folks, if you want in on the conversation, I know we got a crap ton of comments coming in after a game like that. So just keep those comments coming. We'll try to get to some of those here in a little bit too. And we'll see if Scotty and Curtis will be able to join us. They're actually still at Bud Walton Arena. They're going to be there for the press conference for Eric Musselman. So me and Andrew are going to hold down the fort. So hopefully they can hop on with us here shortly whenever the press conference comes to an end, and we can talk to them a little bit more about what all went down in this game, and also what Eric Musselman had to say in the press conference, as well as Buzz Williams, which, by the way, switching from the three-piece suit to the sweater vest at halftime.
Buzz had a little there was a point where they flashed to Buzz, and I thought it was Mike Neighbors.
Yeah, dude,
like he had a little, and he's got a little bit of the facial hair going. Like Buzz looks different these days.
He does. Like
he just has a different look to him. I mean, because he used to be, pretty much bald head and no facial hair, and he was at Marquette. I felt like he just was a very serious. He seemed a little bit more laid back these days.
I don't like more money or something like that.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, he's got something to do with it there too. A few other things of note though in this game. Again, positives and negatives. We'll try to get through it all too. And again, we'll get to your comments here in just a second. But Mark, obviously a huge positive. Played 40 minutes in this game. 40 minutes. And they needed every bit, every second of it for 35 points, 8 of 15 from the field. And really did not have any other great performance. El Ellis had 15 points, but he went 3-11 from the field. But 8 of 8 from the free throw line, that was big.
One of the best 3 for 11 performances ever. Yeah. Honestly, I'm being serious.
6 rebounds, though. 6 rebounds for him.
The thing that stuck out to me is, I don't know how many assists Arkansas finished with. They had 8 in the first half. I felt like El Ellis, something about it, because he only had 2 of the assists. It's not like he was the one dishing out. He had like 9 assists or anything. But Arkansas seems to just move the ball better when El Ellis is playing and playing with confidence. And I think his ability to get some penetration and get things going is a huge thing. And I thought in the first half that was huge. He didn't even have any of the assists, but I just felt like the ball was moving really well. And Chandler Lawson, 4 assists all in the first half, I believe. Interesting performance from him. Devo, I thought, was much better tonight. I liked what I saw, especially in the first half. I just liked how decisive he was. And I thought him and Tremont at least had some moments defensively where you could tell they were trying to live up to their standard that they've set there. But I just felt like this was a team that was a lot more connected, a lot more in tune with what each other were doing. More so on the offensive end. I mean, defensively, there's still plenty to nitpick with this team, and we could do that all day if we needed.
Oh yeah.
But I just felt like shortening the rotation, it was good to see the same group play together for a little bit and see them kind of form a little bit of chemistry and form some ball movement, something they can build on, because we just haven't seen that. I mean, it seems like every game we've been talking about what's the rotation going to look like, and it's night and day different. So it was nice to see them kind of get back to the basics. And I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that was intentional, and that was just kind of Muss was like, hey, it's time to just see what kind of team we have. We can't keep doing this, playing 11 guys and still no Caleb Battle. I don't think
that's what I was going to ask you
that,
about what you thought about Caleb Battle, the DNP, and the press conference going on right now. Looks like Ellis is the one meeting with the Arkansas media. But what do you make of that? Just from, I mean, we'll find out. Maybe I'm sure it'll be asked, but just what'd you make of it?
Well, so that all of those games early in the year, and so I assumed that was going to be the case. And so when he was followed by Mekhi Mitchell and then Jalen Graham, and I was like, oh, it's just really not happening. I definitely didn't think he was going to be a complete DNP coach's decision. I mean, I don't think he got it. I know I saw Layden Blocker get in there. I don't think Caleb got in for
no, he
any
didn't get in a
stretch,
second. Right? Not a second.
That's interesting. And who knows what's going on like behind the scenes. I don't know. Maybe that's something he said at shoot around. Who knows? And I'm sure Muss will get asked about it after the game, and we'll be able to tell based on his reaction on if something weird's going on. But a little surprising, but I don't think we've seen the last of Caleb Battle in Arkansas uniform by any means. And so it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of get in this mix and get into with this rotation that they're starting to form here. And, but offensively, Tremont Mark picked up a huge chunk of that load. And it was interesting because Trevin Brazil didn't have a game that we kind of were forecasting that we thought he might, and still haven't found a groove from him. So it was, the way that Tremont Mark was able to just pretty much carry that scoring load by himself didn't really matter. But I do think if Arkansas is going to reach these heights that they're going to need to reach, or that we expected them to reach preseason, I still think Caleb Battle is going to be a huge part of the puzzle. And it was good to see L. Ellis get back in. But I just did not have Mekhi Mitchell outlasting Caleb Battle in the rotation on my bingo card this year. Or L. Ellis, for that matter. I mean, it seemed like there was a time where he was never going to get back in the rotation.
Yeah.
Now he's back on the good side, and Caleb Battle's still in the doghouse. So,
well, we know that Muss plays not in a bad way, but he definitely likes to superstitious, maybe. Like it's like if something works, like this starting lineup that they went with today is going to be 100% the starting
forever.
lineup.
Yeah, that's it.
Like there is no question about it. They are going to be the starting lineup moving forward. And, I'm okay with it. And Muss is going to build that. And it just makes me wonder, again, we'll find out when Muss gets asked about the situations with Caleb Battle, if it's something that's an injury or if it's just a coach's decision, whatever, we'll find that out. But if it comes down to Muss saying, hey, this is kind of what you can look at and see what we did without you, not in a negative way, but just showing, hey, we can still do this. Like, Caleb, we don't have to have you, going out and scoring 25 points like you've done. It's great and all, but there's still a lot of guys that can step up in that role. And, Mark's been one of them, but you mentioned Ellis, and I'm so happy for L. Ellis because I love that guy. When I did my radio show before, he was one of the NIL guys I had on. He was always awesome. He was respectful. He was always on time, and he was always very personable. And I know that doesn't matter as far as you going on the court, but it's like he's a guy that I like to root for. And so to see him have a great game, or at least a better game, to be involved. You mentioned the rebounds. That was big too, because our A&M offensive rebound wise, just stupid. What did they end up with? 19 offensive rebounds.
Well, there was a point where Arkansas had like Arkansas started the game pretty solid in that rebounding department. Because I remember looking over at one point, it was like 7-2 or something like that. So they built a little bit of an edge, but it seemed like in the last 5 or 6 minutes of the second half, Arkansas just gave up so many offensive rebounds. And John, I've been kind of pushing this small ball agenda for a while now.
Yes, you have. You have been doing that.
This effort took a step back tonight. This is a step back for the small ball group. They went small for exactly 58 seconds in the first half before Muss called a timeout after they gave up 3 offensive rebounds and 2 quick buckets. I think he went back to it in the second half for a little bit there, but this was not the night for small ball.
Nope.
And I think honestly, Trevin Brazil's inability to find a groove defensively is probably the biggest reason why Arkansas can't go small too often. But man, Chandler Lawson, another one. Like we've seen him do this. We've seen him. I mean, in Arkansas's biggest wins this year, it seems like L. Ellis and Chandler Lawson have had a huge part in that. So the thing that stuck out with me, L. Ellis played 31 minutes in this game, and I'd have to go back and look, but I think you could go 4 or 5 games before you would get 31 minutes out of them. And so it was good to just see those guys get time out there to kind of see what's going to happen, to see if they sink or swim, because it was so hard to evaluate. I mean, obviously L. Ellis had his struggles, and so it's like you get why Muss had a little bit of a short leash with him and why he wasn't able to kind of lock down his rotation spot. But to see him get some time out there to kind of sink or swim and really have something to build off of, that was encouraging. And I'm just glad that Arkansas shortened the rotation. I cannot emphasize that enough. I'm so glad that there's no more wondering of who's going to play each night. But, you look at the scoring load the night of, obviously Tremont Marks scored 35. And so it's like, hey, maybe that's not going to happen every game. But you look at it, Keon Minifield didn't really pop off. Trevin Brazil again didn't pop off.
Yeah, that's a great
Caleb
point.
Battle didn't play a minute. L. Ellis even, had a good game, finished with, 15, but still 3 of 11. So it's like, I don't even think that offensively there was anything like out of the ordinary other than Tremont going off. Like, I don't think this is a situation where Arkansas can't be a good offensive team consistently. I really think that this team is starting to at least find it on that end. Giving up 45 points in the second half is tough, though.
It is. We're not. We want to make clear. We're not saying that they're back. We're not saying that they don't have any problems, that there's not any flaws. Because again, Tremont Mark pretty much had half the points tonight. Pretty much
covers a multitude of woes, but I feel like every time we give them any praise, we gotta slip something in there, slip in a little. Well, Trevin Brazil,
this thing, but Brazil, because we got to spend all of our time talking about Trevin Brazil. That's what we do.
I mean, that's what we do.
Yes, that's what we do. A few other things, real quick. Again, I know we got comments, but we just wanted to work through all this, and we'll see if Curtis and Scotty are, actually going to join us, if they're going to bail because they're having too good of a time there in the press conference. But we'll find out. I did want to read this quote. This is actually from Scotty Borderland on Twitter, which he's there in the press conference. Tremont Mark said, "I thought they were going to deny me on the last possession, but they didn't, and I'm glad they didn't." So, yeah, kind of a problem there for him. But either way, 2 quick things. Actually, just 1 quick thing, and we'll do that. Devo Davis, flagrant 2, gets ejected from the game.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. So at first, I mean, there was a block charge situation because the guy was in he was well in the restricted area. I mean, wasn't even close. And that's what we thought they were reviewing at first. And then, I guess I just missed it at somewhere along the line. They come back with flagrant 2. Now, he definitely kicked him right in the balls. There's no doubt about it. He kicked him right in the balls.
Right in the family jewels.
Incidental, I don't know if I think that Devo didn't intend to kick him in the balls. I think once he realized it was happening, he didn't stop. But I mean, flagrant 2. I thought that was a little
extreme.
A little extreme, especially because it wasn't even a head or neck area. Normally, that's where it's like, hey, if you accidentally elbow a guy in the face, you still elbowed him in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Cup, I feel like
I feel like when, again, wish we could have the replay on here, but essentially it's like he literally, when he jumped up, I can understand if he kicked his leg up like in the air, but from the second he jumped in the air, his leg did not move. His knee did not move. His foot did not move. It just happened to be landing where the dude's balls were. And so it's like, is it Devo's fault that his balls were in the way of where he was trying to land? I mean, I don't think so.
Well, if you take the defender away, it would have just looked like Devo going up for a layup, and I don't think you would have,
Right. Yeah.
We'll go back and review the footage if we need to, but I just could not believe they came back with flagrant 2 ejected. I mean, and I also didn't think at the time, I think it was a 10-point game, like Chandler Lawson had just fouled out, and so we're like, oh, they're not going to have Lawson and Devo. Did not think it was going to matter as much as it did in those last 4 minutes, but
I'm stupid though. Like that doesn't mean Devo has to sit out any for being ejected, right?
I don't think so.
I know it was like targeting in football where you got to just sit out the first half of the next game. I mean, it's not going to happen that way. So that's good.
He had to sit out his first G League game.
Exactly. And also, real quick, Wade Taylor, 41 points. Got to give a lot of love to him
on 32 shots. Even
it helps when you shoot that many times. 5 of 14 from 3, 10 of 13 from free throw line, 6 rebounds. Didn't have a turnover either.
A little bit quiet from Tyrese Radford. Normally, I feel like it's a little bit of a 1-2 punch with
6
with
points,
him and
2
Taylor.
of 15 for him. 2 of 15.
I didn't even realize he shot that much. I mean, man, A&M, nobody was shooting. I mean, I don't know how many. Taylor had to have hit 4 or 5 of their threes. He might have hit all of them.
Taylor had 5 threes. They hit 6 because Washington hit the other one.
Goodness,
so,
man. And Taylor missed. I mean, what was he, 4 for?
Taylor was, for talking about for the game itself?
Yeah, just from 3. What was he?
Oh, 5 for 14.
5 for 14. Okay, that's better than I thought.
Yeah, it didn't seem like he was, but yeah. He
Yeah,
was.
I mean, I think 3 of those were in like the last 5 minutes. But man, it seemed like every time A&M was getting open looks from 3, they were just not even close. I mean, they had that white dude airball a free throw at one point.
How many air balls were in this game by A&M?
Oh my goodness,
I think there was at least 7.
Oh yeah, I mean there was a ton. I mean, airball free. I mean there was a lot of rough shooting. I mean A&M's missed free throws. They missed 5 straight at one point in the final minutes of the second half. There, I mean that ended up being the game. Cannot emphasize how bad of a performance this was by A&M. I mean this is one that A&M could very well end up on that bubble watch down the stretch. They're going to be looking back at this one like, man, that's a killer.
One and you can look at it too, and we'll get to your comments after this. You can look at it too that this is a game where if Tremont Mark does not hit that shot and A&M wins, A&M looks at this as like, wow, we played our worst game and we escaped in Bud Walton with a victory. But because of Tremont Mark hitting that shot, now it's if you're A&M, you're just like, wow, we sucked. We still should have won the game.
Yeah.
And so, A&M's going to be fine. I don't know how good they're going to end up being. I don't know if they're going to be an NCAA tournament team necessarily, but for them to play that poorly and to get, it was 2 guys. It was Tremont Mark and the Wade Taylor show. Yeah. Like they might as well just played 1-on-1 in this game and figured it out that way.
It was Rucker Park, man. It really looked like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So a few of the comments we'll get to here on the live reaction show here on Natty State Sports for the Texas A&M game. Arkansas gets a victory. Final score 78-77. Razorback Sam says, love the grit. Glad we didn't win in a blowout and got the chance to see some character.
There you go.
I like that.
You think we're sunshine pumpers. That was some character growth down the stretch there. That was not a blown lead. That was character growth.
That was character growth. Kind of like Purdue wasn't, playing to win. They were playing to develop. And it's like, that's what it was. Arkansas was winning.
Turns out Purdue developed quite a bit from that loss.
Yeah, they did. That's maybe Arkansas shouldn't have tried to win that game. They should have just developed more.
Yeah, they didn't develop.
Austin says, Saturday's squad had a real question on if they'd win an SEC game moving forward after this past Saturday.
Why were people acting like that was? I mean, look, I get it if you're like, hey, they might finish under 500 again in SEC play. Yeah, but it's like, you really thought they were about to go over goose egg in SEC play?
Yeah, I knew they were going to win at least, 1.
4 or 5 games.
But yeah,
I was if Arkansas had gone, I was
feeling 5.
Yeah, 5 was a respectable.
You fall backwards into 5.
A respectable 5-13 finish was the worst case scenario.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be like Pelfrey's year where they went 2-14. Like that wasn't going to happen.
But that would have been kind of funny because that year they beat Texas and Oklahoma. Like Arkansas beat Duke and Purdue and then went 2. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would have been a bad deal. Let's see. Bobby says, how poetic to end with Taylor draining a 3 and then Mark hitting the game-winning shot. That is
2 shots that. Well, Mark's actually was a pretty good look. I can't believe they let him get that look.
That's what I'm saying. Like he was.
It wasn't like a wide open, but it was like that was a classic Tremont Mark. That was the shot he wanted to take for sure.
Yeah, and it'd be the same thing if the shoe was on the other foot. If Arkansas had let Wade take that, it'd be like, dude, he's been killing you. Wade Taylor's been killing you, and you're just going to let him go by?
The last 2 threes Wade Taylor hit, he was actively searching for a foul on them. I mean, he was doing the whole boot scoot thing where he was trying to throw it up and just happened to make both of them.
Oh, gosh.
Just a wild basketball game.
Yeah, again, it's like something that you could be excited about as a Razorback fan, and it was exciting to see the ending that way. Me and Andrew were praying for no overtime because that game is long enough. Like, we didn't go on the air. Let's see, we've been on the air for almost 30 minutes here. It's 11:13. So you're talking about 10:45 for a game that was on time, starting at 8 o'clock.
Well, there was a stretch where it looked like it was about to be the quickest game of all. Like, the first half, I felt like went pretty quickly. It wasn't like a real slow pace there. And then that second half, we have 3 reviews at least.
Oh, man. Yeah, the reviews. And I'm not going to bash on the officiating, but, man, the amount of foul calls, we talked about, there's 50 foul calls in this game. In the second half alone, of those 50, 30? How much do you think there were?
I'm going to say 29.
Pretty close, 28. So, but I think it was just because of the stretch where I think first 10 minutes you already had 15 fouls called, something like that.
Both teams were in the double bonus right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was quick where free throws were going to be playing a huge factor. Arkansas took 40 free throws, 31 of 40, A&M 23 of 33.
By the way, I want to hold myself accountable real quick because that's what we do around here. Nice. Arkansas was 13 of 14 from the line, and I leaned over to Curtis and I was like, man, we used to talk about how they were so bad at shooting free throws early in the year, and we were like, that's going to overcorrect at some point. And I was like, hey, you know what? Credit to us. They're starting to overcorrect on the free throws. And right as I said that, Lawson missed 2, Brazil missed 2, and then I think there was a 1 of 2 trip somewhere in there.
I think
Mark,
Mark missed 1. Like
went 1 of 2. So they went 1 of 6, like right off the bat after being 13 and 14, and it was a direct result of me trying to pat myself on the back.
Let's see. Curtis Wilkerson on Twitter, X, we're gonna call it. He's putting out some quotes as Eric Musselman's meeting with the media, but Eric Musselman does say we've kind of been a moving target on who starts. I feel like Ellis is a veteran, and we are playing a veteran team. Felt from an experience standpoint, that's why we started this group, for experience and for their veteran play. Sure.
That is a weird way to say I finally decided to start playing my good players more.
Yeah, I mean, you could just said
just
that.
decided to just play the best 5, and then we'll roll from there, minus Caleb Battle.
Yeah. Also, Coach Muss says, we lead for 38 minutes, and that's a drastic improvement from where we were in the first 3 SEC games. I'm like, well,
that is true.
He ain't lying on that front.
Hearing that they led for 38 minutes, this would have been the worst loss of all time. This would have been a disastrous loss, like truly one of the worst ones you can. I mean, you couldn't have scripted a worse loss than if they had really lost on that 3-point. If that just Tremont Mark jumper doesn't go in. You could not have scripted a worse loss, I don't think.
Well, it was so funny because people were calling me out on it because I had our ticker down here on our live stream. I got like so crazy excited about it. I forgot to change it because I had the final score in. I was like, Arkansas loses. I'm like, oh crap, I got to change it.
Oh, you had Arkansas loses?
Yeah, because I was like, I thought they had to lose by the 1 point, and then it flipped around. But hey, that's okay. Though.
One time I hit publish on a story that said Arkansas beats so and so XX to XX.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like fill in the blank.
Right.
Do whatever you want to do. You figure it out.
Yeah. Choose your own adventure game story. That's what we were going for there.
That's right.
I wish I would have recorded you that last 2 minutes of watching the jumper happen and then watching you scramble to start the show. That was good stuff.
If you've ever wanted to know like what a straight clown shoes operation is, you take me in that 30-second span where I felt like I was just like running around like a chicken with his head cut off and just being like, do we have audio? It's like the worst would be checking it out and then not being able to get audio, and we're sitting here talking to ourselves and anything because
we're still. I mean, that could be happening for all we know. Who knows?
True. That's true. Everyone could just be like being nice to us and saying, "No, we don't hear you," but hey, you guys look good, so we're going along with it. Let's see. Matt says, disappointing not to see Blocker play once again. He adds a lot of value.
He played at the end.
Yeah.
He was a defensive sub for the final possession where they,
Yeah.
All it took was Devo foul or getting ejected.
That's all it took. That's how you know what? That might be the way that Blocker can get on the floor more is if Devo just gets ejected or misses out on something. Because I was trying to see how much he actually played according to the final box.
26 seconds.
17. Yeah, so even less than what you thought. Mekhi Mitchell, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I didn't even feel like he played at all.
He was the second guy off the bench. I couldn't believe that.
Jalen Graham played 3 minutes. Jeremiah Davenport, I know he is what he is. He was minus 13 in this one, but
was he really minus 13?
He goes 3 of 9, hit 2 threes, did have a rebound, finished with 8 points, had 1 turnover. And a block shot. But yeah, he was minus 13.
Oh, it was a great block shot, too. He had a back-to-back shot attempts from the exact same spot. And he hit it. It was from the corner, and he hit it somehow off the front of the backboard, despite shooting from the corner. And
That's pretty impressive.
I literally, this is one I'll give myself credit. I told Curtis, I was like, I bet his next attempt is just, he's going to drain it. Literally same exact spot, like 8 seconds later, and he just nails it. I think that's who he is. I mean, he's Jeremiah Davenport, but he's another one. I'm glad that he's playing to where it's like he has room to do that. Yes. Because it's like he couldn't even be streaky before because like he missed 2 threes and then he wouldn't play for a week. So it's like man, it's tough to be a on the spot shooter whenever your spot is 3 weeks apart. But it's good to see those guys get some run and like we've been saying, this is the team.
Yeah,
these are the top 8 guys. Maybe you throw Battle in there, maybe you take Mekhi out. That seems like the move, but. This is the team. That's the starting 5, and now Arkansas can at least just start operating under that pretense of like, this is our group. We know what we are. That's where you form an identity. You can't form an identity if you don't even know who's playing each night. And so at least Saturday, we probably won't have to speculate on the starting lineup. That'll be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, still plenty of questions to get into, but I'm just glad that now we can start asking questions that matter.
Yes.
Now we can.
It goes back to the whole point of not having to come on this post game, which I'm saying like we've done this so many times. It's literally our first post game.
Literally our first post game.
Arkansas's 1-0, by the way, of Natty State sports since its launch. Just saying, throwing it out there for those that care.
Yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
I mean, they are officially hashtag 1-0. But I think that because of us always talking about it in our shows or when y'all were writing and everything, it was just kind of the same. Like people are tweeting at you, "What's going on? What's going on with the Hogs?"
It was so annoying to talk to people because everyone.
I wish I knew.
Everyone thought they were the first one to come up with the idea of like, man, they've struggled in years past before, but this feels a little different.
This is
like,
ridiculous. Yeah,
it's like, guys, we've heard it. We know.
Yeah,
we know. We're watching the same thing you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just glad that there's stuff we can evaluate now. We can actually talk about it.
That's right. It's
nice.
nice.
I'm just glad, like, when you think about all these past seasons, we can always point to these moments of like, oh, that was a huge game. Oh, that was awesome. It's nice that, we had the Duke game, which was a monumental moment, one of the best experiences I've had covering Arkansas. But I feel like this is going to be one that we look back on and we're just like, that was a huge turning point for whatever Arkansas is going to do. When we're there in Madison Square Garden, when they win the NIT, John,
by God,
we're going to point back and we're going to be like, when Sherman Mark hit that jumper, that got us to NYC.
He got us to New York City. Yeah, while you folks over there in the Sweet 16s hanging out in Detroit, we get to be over here in Madison Square Garden, old MSG. But let's see, a few other comments. Sully says, have y'all been told not to talk about Graham? I don't know what that means. It's like, what's there to say? I mean,
we said he played 3 minutes, right? It was a little bit more than 3 minutes. I will say, I think that the one thing we've established in this game tonight is Chandler Lawson's the best 5 on the team. We can go ahead
absolutely.
I mean, we can figure that
absolutely.
out. And I think Graham needs to play in his absence, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we can talk about Graham.
Well, Graham, he just played 3 minutes and had 2 fouls.
Yeah.
He did have a block shot. Finished -3 in this game. I will say, besides Tremont Mark, or actually, no, hold on. Let me see. I'm going through the whole deal. Okay, so you want to know who had the highest plus-minus in this game for Arkansas? I was a little surprised by that. By this, at least.
Keon Minifield.
No, that Keon Minifield actually was +7, so it was a decent guess. +10, Devo Davis.
That was going to be my next guess. Dang it.
Devo Davis, 7 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, no turnovers, and 3 of 6 from the field.
Devo's been just not turning the ball over. Like, you remember he had a stretch early in the year where he went 5 games. I think he went into the season for a while, like 4 or 5 games, and might have been in the Bahamas when he finally had his first turnover.
Yeah.
We talk about Devo a lot of just, we all understand it with Devo. There's going to be ups and downs, but like I said, I liked his minutes tonight. I thought that things he did was with a purpose a little bit offensively. Like, I felt like there were times where he just floated a little bit. And
right.
I think he does that by design where he wants to take a step back and let the team kind of figure it out. But felt like there was you got your hand up. Is that?
Yeah, because we have an answer about Caliph Battle.
Oh,
officially. According to our insider, Curtis Wilkerson, sources are saying that Eric Musselman in the press conference said the reason that Caliph Battle did not play, it was a coach's decision. Tonight was about shrinking the rotation. Who knows whose day it'll be on Saturday? That was his response and why Caliph Battle didn't play. So for those of you asking in the comment section over here, that's it. Coach's decision, shrinking the rotation. Who knows what Saturday will be? Does that satisfy all your inquiries out there, chat? Does that satisfy you all? Hopefully so.
I'm going to start saying, when people ask me why I do something, I'm going to say, that was Andrew's decision.
Yeah, just Andrew's decision.
That was Andrew's decision. So take that.
Take that.
That's why I did it. It was because it was my decision.
Let's see. So other questions that we have coming in. We talk again, a lot of this is about battle. And that's the reason why I already did that. Jeremy's like, did this save the season?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
for now, that's what you do. It saved the season for now.
It kept the season afloat is what it did.
Yes.
It brought you back to the shore for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It gave you at least, whether you like it or don't, whether you get frustrated or not, it makes me laugh because it's like all this really did is at least get people back into the be like, nice, it's a win.
Well, and I'll tell you what it really does, though. I don't know where A&M's at net-wise. I think they're in the 40s.
I mean, we can look it up right now.
So this won't be Arkansas's best win. I think Duke is still going to be their best win so far. But another one that you can kind of hang your hat on the resume. Arkansas is in desperate need of wins like that, though. And so
100%.
I'll be interested to see what Arkansas's bump is going to be like in the rankings and stuff tomorrow. It probably won't be like drastic, but
41, by the way, is their net ranking, Texas A&M.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, they'll probably have a little bit of a drop after losing to such a poverty program like this. But
yeah, it's like
but I do think
down.
Arkansas is going to have a nice little boost tomorrow. And then, hey, you take care of business against
right.
South Carolina, who I believe did lose at home today.
Yep, Georgia,
hey,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Arkansas's resume, I mean, it's not far from in good shape, but I think Arkansas's resume is at least stabilizing to the point where they can get to striking distance of somewhat capable,
If only that Purdue game counted. They're third in the net ranking.
I meant to give you credit earlier today. You said that game counted. I don't care what
I don't care what anybody says. They better count it for the net rankings. But here's the deal. The point is that Alabama's number 4. Arkansas still plays. Grant's final game of the season on the road. Now, at this point, you got a long way to get to that, but you have them at number 4. Tennessee at number 6, which that's a home game this year. Auburn's at 8. Would have been nice if you would have taken care of business, but who knows? Maybe you could face one of these teams in the SEC tournament who could add into the mix. Duke is at 14 at this point in time. Kentucky's at 18, so you get them twice this year. So a possibility to maybe win one of those games. Oklahoma's at 23. It would have been nice to have that one too.
Yeah.
But I guess the point is you've had some that were in there in the mix, but you still have some opportunities in front of you to possibly get to the point to where you can get some building up on net rankings, and maybe even Lenardi will be like, hey, next 4
maybe
out.
he'll mention Arkansas's existence.
Next 4 out, those Razorbacks, watch out. They're coming for it. They're coming for it. For those of you who are just joining us, this is the Natty State reaction show. Arkansas taking care of business, just like we all thought, against the Texas A&M Aggies by a final score of 78-77. Tremont Mark with the buzzer beater. I'm John Neighbors, Andrew Ellis. We're going to hopefully be joined by Curtis Wilkerson and Scotty Borderland whenever they get done with the press conferences there at Bud Walton Arena. And it's kind of funny, too, because it's amazing. Like, Muss seems to talk more in the press conference when they win. Who would have guessed that? Wayne also says in the chat, by the way, the NIT finals in Indianapolis this year.
Is it really?
Apparently. I didn't know that either. I thought it was always an MSG.
Yeah. I think that I've only watched it once or twice, but I mean,
Would have been nice.
NIT reporter over here.
Yeah,
breaking
sorry,
Wayne.
Yeah.
We need to get well versed on it, though.
Yeah. Listen, Indianapolis ain't bad, but that's not where you want to be. I'm still holding out hope for Dayton in the first.
No,
4.
I really think I've never been to Dayton, and I kind of want to go
either.
just to say I did it, and then at least I can avoid it from there on. But if Arkansas's in Dayton, it's gonna be fun. That'll be a fun trip, especially because then we're gonna probably be looking at, Selection Sunday. Then we go to Dayton on Monday.
And boom. Yep.
Turn right around and travel to wherever, Omaha or whatever it is.
Omaha, yeah, I keep forgetting it. That's there. Magnum says, shout out to Taylor, but seems a lot of calls helped A&M get back in this thing and made it seem closer than it already was.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll go with that. I mean, dude, any college basketball game, you can sell me on the refs cheating your team because they probably did. Like, college basketball it's probably the biggest issue with it as a sport is that it's just, I don't know if it's poorly officiated, but the way it's officiated makes it an almost unwatchable product at times. And so if you want to complain about the refs, you're probably right most of the time in college basketball.
You are. Brendan says, actually, hold on. Must in Arkansas even accept an NIT invite? We kind of talked about
We
this.
talked about that. We wondered, I mean, it depends on who's coming back. I mean, I think if they're at a situation where they know X amount of players aren't coming back, then I think but if you're in a situation where you're like, hey, Minifield's coming back, we think maybe even Brazil might come back for another year. Maybe there's a couple other guys and Blocker and whoever. You're like, hey, we'd like to see these guys have a few more practices together. But if the roster turnover continues at the rate it has every other offseason, I don't think there's going to be much desire. But I think Muss might do it just to say, just to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Muss is a competitor, so it's like if the options are your season ends or you play a game or two more, I think he'll probably sign up for more basketball.
Also, Jeremy says, what did y'all think of the ref? Why do you think that the refs were so whistle happy in this game? I thought that, here's the thing. I hate the officiating in most cases, and I give them a lot of crap. And, I only tweet out, really, it's not like I ever tweet out about the officials having a good call. Like, I only tweet out when it's bad.
Good block call.
Yeah. That was the right call. Like, I'm never going to do that.
Yeah,
but it's like, Yes, were there some calls that I was not a fan of? Absolutely. That Trevin Brazil call,
That one was tough.
that was terrible. I was like, what is he supposed to do? Like, just because he's taller than the guy and didn't have a landing zone, like, that's the type of stuff that maybe I can't get down with. But, I mean, overall, a lot of them were fouls. Like, it just, whether you like it or don't, but a lot of them were fouls. And at the end of the day, I'm not, this game was not cost by the officials one way or the other. It was pretty even as far as bad calls or good calls. But, again, it's more from the stake of, I can't stand watching a college basketball game that has that many fouls. Whether it's right or wrong, it's just not fun to see a game in regulation get 50 fouls. That's what 1.1 fouls a minute.
That's a rough ratio there. I mean, what was the final tally we decided? 50.
50.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I think what's weird about tonight is that it felt like there was a clear shift. Whereas, like, if the refs come out and set the tone where it's like, hey, the whistle's going to be this way tonight, you usually kind of see teams adapt to it. Where it's like, hey, they're letting us play a little bit here, or they're really calling these. You see teams kind of adapt. Felt like there was a shift at halftime because what'd you say? 28 of them were in the second half of those 50. Where
Yes,
it was like it ramped up at a section there. I mean, the second half, it almost like they met at halftime. We're like, hey, let's blow these whistles a little bit more. And so I don't know if that was a deliberate decision by them or just how it played out, but a lot of reach-in calls tonight.
absolutely. Curtis and Scotty will be joining us here shortly, folks, because I know that's how you actually want to hear about. You're tired of me and Andrew yapping. But we'll get to them here in just a second. Let's see. Lion Runner, how about this? He says, do you think the NCAA should integrate the NBA flop tech rule? Why or why not? Speaking based off the insane number of flops I saw from Texas A&M.
Well, I'll tell you one, the Davenport call where he was, I guess it was over the back was the call, and that last free throw there at the end, I felt like that was an example of a clear one where it's like not a ton of contact there, but the A&M guy really sold it. And I think that's what had it. But yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know if we need rules for it, but college basketball players flop a lot.
They do.
They have kind of changed it a little bit. Like this offseason, they made that a point of emphasis where they're not rewarding defenders as much in those, especially in the block charge situations. They're kind of leaning towards the I guess towards the defense there. Well, I guess they're just calling it differently, but I've noticed that was a point of emphasis this offseason. Someone smarter than me can articulate the rule change
Can we
better
get a
than I
Gene
can.
Tessitore or whatever his name is?
Yeah,
like, we need an official,
get our rules analyst in.
Yeah, just like just bring them in, even though they're like refereed, like the Boys and Girls Club games. Like, oh, what's your call here? Like, what are you thinking?
I love when they bring in the rules analyst and they tell us exactly what we're looking at. They're like, yeah, this is gonna be a tough call because you can't really tell if the guy stepped out of bounds or not. And like, oh,
okay, thanks, Gene.
Yeah,
thanks, Gene.
Sterator. Yeah,
Sterator, whatever his name is. Yeah, it's like
you say Gene Tessitore.
Tessitore. Who's Gene Tessitore?
Joe Tessitore.
Joe Tessitore
is the play-by-play guy.
It's all the same. It's all the same guy, pretty much. It's all the same guy.
It sounded right when you said it. I was like, oh yeah, Gene Tessitore.
It sounded. It's something sounded like a fun name to say. Mr. Girthy. That's a great name. Speaking of, what do you think is going on with Devo? He's not the same player as last year.
No, I think he's the
best
exact
plus
same
minus.
player.
Yeah, let's say I don't know.
I think he's doing the exact same thing he did last year, which is kind of chill for a while in the non-conference slate. We saw him. He had a game not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, where he popped off a little bit. I think maybe he's not shooting threes the way that he used to, but he made a couple tonight. A couple big threes in this game. Threevo was out and about.
Like what do people expect out of him? I guess is what my question is. And again, I'm not hating on Mr. Girthy, but it's just I hear this a lot. We've seen the same Devo for 4 straight years.
Go look at his career stats this year included. They're almost identical, like to the number almost. And now last year he did have a 3-point barrage for like 6 weeks there down the stretch. So maybe that's what he needs to do. Be March Devo where he's scoring 20 a game. I don't think Arkansas really needs Devo in that regard. I'm glad to see him shooting some spot up threes, but I don't think Arkansas needs a ton of extra scoring on the perimeter or anything. I think they're fine there. I would love to see that vintage Devo on the defensive end that's really getting in guys' shorts a little bit. We haven't seen that a ton, but I don't know. I think Devo kind of does this every year, though. I think he's the exact same player.
I do, too. Also, Kingsley on YouTube says, playing not to lose instead of playing to win makes for a scary situation every time. Not sure why we took our foot off the gas.
It's tough when this happens because it's like when you're up 10 with 3 minutes left or whatever, you're kind of supposed to do the stall ball thing, but It seems like Arkansas loves having it go real south.
Yeah, for whatever reason. Okay, I know that we're going to give this a shot because this is a trial run. I know for these guys, and hopefully Curtis and Scotty. It looks like they're about to be ready. They're working on it, so we'll get them on as they are live from Bud Walton Arena, because they're also going to be recording their pod at the Palace, which will be
Palace,
at the Pack Jack, the actual Palace, not the Sports Media Palace, that is, but at the actual Basketball Palace of Mid-America. They're going to be putting that up, and you'll be able to listen to it first thing in the morning. So check it out on YouTube as well as all of our social medias too, because we've had this question as well about our podcasting, and it's like when we're going to do the audio stuff, we will have that in check and here soon. It's been a little bit of a annoyance that we've been dealing with, but Jake, just like everything else when it comes to the launch, we've been doing it that way too. Also, real quick before we go to them too, Sam says, well, what do you think about keeping the tight rotation with the result of not seeing Graham or Battle? We saw Graham for 3 minutes, but we talked a little bit about the tight rotation, but I still think we were all for it. And I know, Andrew, you've been calling for it for a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't have to look exactly like it did tonight. Like, I think in the first, he started that opening lineup. They played for the first 7.5 minutes. I don't think there was a sub until like the 11-something mark. So that was encouraging. I don't think it needs to be that long necessarily. I think I liked when Caleb Battle was the first guy off the bench. I loved that. I'm okay with that being Keon Minifield because I think it's a little bit of the same idea there, but I was surprised to see Mekhi Mitchell. I agree that it should be Graham instead of Mitchell if we're going to have a backup 5 there. How many minutes did Lawson play?
Oh, that's a great question. I didn't even think about that. Lawson ended up playing.
He played a good bit. So maybe there's a little bit more room. So if you're asking for more Jalen Graham, maybe you cut into Lawson's minute. Maybe it's only 20 to 25 for Lawson, and then there's a little bit of a split there.
He played
with Graham.
27 minutes. Lawson did. 27 minutes, had 1 point or 2 points. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, because he made 1 field goal.
Yeah.
5 rebounds.
4 assists.
4 assists and 1 block shot, no turnovers, and 5 fouls.
Yeah, that's why he didn't play as much. I was about to say, I was like, 27, that seems low, but he did foul out with like 6 minutes left.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still think there's room for Caleb Battle. So I think I'm good with those rotations shortening. I'm okay to slip in a few of those other guys, especially because you had Kamani and Layden Blocker play, which might or might not happen every game. So I still think today was a step forward in the right direction, a massive step forward into tightening it up. And I think we'll still see Caleb Battle. And I would be surprised if we don't see him Saturday, honestly. And it seemed like Muss in that post. I mean, I didn't hear him say it, but it sounded more like a sending a message type of, we won a game. Now it's time for you to kind of formulate your game around this group that we have and see how you can fit in. And Caleb Battle's a veteran. I mean, he talked about the experience. I think Caleb Battle's a guy that I just can't imagine this is the last we've heard of him. So
no, I don't think so either. All right, we're going to give this a shot.
Let's do it. Let's bring them on.
I think Curtis and Scotty, you got to figure it out. We're going to add them into the mix here as we get them on board with everything as soon as we can figure out how to get them on board. This is strange. Never had this happen before, so hang with us, guys.
This is history, boys.
Yeah.
This is history.
Yeah. You got to, because apparently they got to start their mic at the bottom there to make sure that happens too, because apparently that's one of the issues. But still, we're gonna continue on with that too, and hopefully get them on board.
If nothing else, they're here in spirit.
They can hear us, which is really all that matters. But until we get to that point, actually, I think they're here now.
I hear something.
It's like I hear people. I hear people that are out there too.
Someone's at the
Can you
door.
hear me now?
We can hear Curtis Wilkerson.
We can hear Curtis Wilkerson. How about that? And we're about to bring you on video here, and just a hop, skip, and a jump, guys. But we've been talking for the entire time, and I'm sure everybody is pretty much sick and tired of hearing us talk for this entire time, which is totally fine. So, out of curiosity, what did you guys make of the game itself, and how did you feel like a press conference went too?
Well, it was intense here, man. I mean, it was a lively crowd who had all the wind sucked out of it with 6 seconds left when Wade Taylor hit that shot. And it came back to life real quick. I mean, it was just nuts to see that. It was such an unbelievable sequence, where Mark missed the back end of the free throws there, and then Taylor hits that off shot. man, the vibes in here were crazy, but they picked up real quick. That was a hell of a shot by Tremont Mark, and they needed that win. And like we said, earlier in the day, like it doesn't matter how you get it. It can be ugly. That's fine. And they found a way and they got it done.
Well, I know that there is a few things that we'll also have to take on anytime that you have that type of situation, that especially when the ones that they found themselves in to begin with. Because if you think about how much that these guys have needed something like this, for one, but also the type of game that they've had, to me, is like, you got to be impressed by it. You got to feel good about it. You got to feel good about stuff that's happened, in between and everything. But you also have to do, like, for instance, Andrew, like we were talking about, the issue is, for instance, will this team get better from it? Will they continue to improve from it? How do they respond on Saturday against South Carolina? Because this game is going to be all for naught if they don't get that.
Well, thankfully, this game's on Tuesdays. So there's a little bit of an exhale that can happen tomorrow, and then hopefully they got a few days of practice to kind of do whatever it is they do, whatever their process is. But I think this team, and they don't have to travel, so that's nice. So Saturday, we'll see what the weather's like. I haven't looked that far ahead. Should be another lively crowd, noon. So that's nice that we'll be doing this not in the middle of the night on Saturday. But yeah, I think that you're right. It's all for naught, because it would be so disappointing if Arkansas just followed this up with a stinker again. But I think being at home against the South Carolina team that appears to not be as good as their record shows at this point in the year, they lose at home to Georgia tonight. So we'll see if Arkansas catches them at a right time. I haven't watched a ton of the Gamecocks. I'm not going to pretend to know much on the Cocks, but we'll see what they got going Saturday. I know they got some. They feel pretty good about their team. They're more improved than they were last year. I know Scotty's a fan of some of their guys, so we'll see what they got. But I think this Arkansas set up pretty well for Arkansas to have a nice little comfortable home victory after a chaotic Tuesday night. But I'm just really looking forward to this team now that we can start the journey. They have a real rotation. They're playing the guys we expected them to play. Now we can move forward. And Curtis and Scotty, I'm sure y'all are kind of happy to see that same rotation that I saw tonight.
Yeah, it was interesting, the rotation, and Eric, after the game, the last question that he got asked was about Battle, and he said DNP coach's decision, and he's like, you kind of never know whose night it's going to be, and then he was like, well, they play at noon on Saturday, so you never know whose day it's going to be. It could be his on Saturday, but I feel kind of silly for making that statement earlier today, that looking at a Caleb Battle pulse check kind of, and then he gets a coach's DNP, but man, T-Mark was phenomenal, and this is very, very, very unofficial, but I had him defensively, on top of what he did on offense, I had him giving up 3 buckets on 16 shots defended. I mean,
Isn't that crazy.
That is crazy.
That's sensational. But I mean, he was so good tonight, and me and Curtis we're sitting up here under 8 seconds. Curtis looks at me and he says, where's Arkansas going with this last shot? He said, is T-Mark just going to put his head down and bowl his way to the rim? And I said, yep. And that's pretty much what he did. He's T-Mark in the post game said that he didn't know exactly what he was going to do with that final shot coming out of the timeout. But he said he was kind of glad that there was a timeout to kind of get Arkansas organized. And he was also surprised that A&M didn't try to deny him the ball, which I really am too. That's who Arkansas wanted to put the ball in the hands of. Yeah, he was sensational.
Yeah, and I think also too, guys, like, we've broken down it all this whole time, and just knowing about the shrinking of the rotation. I guess with Caleb Battle, he's not playing because of a coach's decision, which is always an interesting thing to hear. But overall, I felt like me and Andrew talked about just the Muss is about 7 to 8 guys. We know about that, and it always has been. But now, just seeing a little bit piece of this, like 100%, they're going to start the same starting guys against South Carolina, because Muss is like, we are all about the entire thing about being what it's superstitious or whatever. It's going to be the same starting five. Probably going to see a little bit similar in the rotation. And I'm just saying, they beat South Carolina and maybe even look a little bit. Hopefully, they don't need a 35-point performance by Tremont Mark. But if they beat South Carolina and suddenly they're at 2 and 3, people are going to be like, the Hogs can really make a run here. Like they can get to the NCAA tournament if they just play their cards right and beat the right teams.
Fun fact, John: if Arkansas beats South Carolina on Saturday, every single team in the SEC will be 2 and 3. Don't look it up to fact check me. That is correct. The entire league.
The
is
entire
2 and 3.
league.
They're all in the same. They all have the same record, non-conference and conference. This league, like we said earlier today on the John Neighbors program,
Yeah.
pretty much. I mean, there's Kentucky has a little bit more talent, most years, but it seems like this year more than ever. It's like teams 2 through 12 in the SEC are separated by pretty much nothing. And you saw that tonight, that Arkansas and Texas A&M do it in different ways, but these teams are pretty similar, and I think that, or at least in the same realm and same level, and I think that's going to be the case in a lot of these games down the stretch. And so it's really nice to see Arkansas start to formulate those steps of, at least we can know what to expect out of them, because there are going to be a lot of these games that are going to come down to the final possession, and you really need to know what to expect from your guys. And it was good to see them get some reps. I mean, one of the first comments we had was the guy saying that Arkansas had a character building down the stretch there. It wasn't a blown lead. It was them building character. Arkansas built a lot of character tonight, and so we'll see if they can continue to do that.
Yeah, call it whatever you want, man. You take them how you can get them at this point in the year, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that was wild. It's just nuts to me that they were up by 20 in that game, and you just never really felt comfortable. And that's just kind of where we've been with this team. And I know it's crazy that they lost the lead there at the end, but for them to just find a way, for that shot just to fall for Tremont Mark, I mean, that's huge for them. And now we got to see it consistently, right? And we talk about the rotation. Maybe they found something there. Maybe this is the lineup they should go with. I tend to agree. But how are they going to play on Saturday? Are we going to get the same look? Or are they going to come out kind of flat and lethargic like we've seen in the past? So I think they took a step in the right direction, and now it's all about finding that consistency and continuing to take a step forward. I feel like every year when Muss has kind of figured this thing out and they've put it all together, it's been a situation where they've really done the one game at a time mentality, and they don't look ahead, they don't look back, and they just really stay focused on the task at hand. So they can do that and continue to kind of follow the game plan and pick up what Muss is putting down, then who knows? They're capable of anything.
So, okay, if you go back to the Moses Moody team that made the Elite Eight.
Moody.
Moses Moody.
Mal guy.
So that team, y'all remember that game against Auburn where they were down like 8 at half or 10 at half or something like that and came back and won?
Yep.
I look back at that year, and I think that was kind of the turning point then, where it's like you can always point back to like that moment. The year after that, they had the Missouri game where they go with the big starting lineup and they beat them by 40. And like in the moment, it kind of felt like a little bit of a turning point. Last year, I'm trying to remember what the game was. Oh, it was the A&M Snow game last year, oddly enough, where it kind of felt like that might have been the turning point for that group. Curtis, I'm going to ask you, or Scotty, whoever wants to take it, is this that moment? Is this that moment where we're going to look back in 2 months and be like, hey, it kind of all started there. They just needed that one win, and that's what pushed them in the direction they've gone now, and here we are in NYC or in Indianapolis at the Final Four of the Indianapolis at the Final Four of the NIT. Or are we going to make it all the way to Phoenix? I need y'all to make sense of what we just saw.
Yeah.
I would like to go to Phoenix. I mean, I need to go to that Phoenix Suns team shop ASAP. I don't know if this is going to be the turning point, but like I mentioned earlier today, I think you've got to start somewhere, and tonight was a terrific place to start with the team that just beat Kentucky. And you escaped another Wade Taylor game. And I think one of the big deals for me, at least, we talked about it on the pregame pod at the Palace today. Can Arkansas tie that left arm behind its back? Tyrese Radford ends up going 2 for 15, 6 points. He was 0 for 5 from 3, so he's 2 out of 10 inside the arc. I said Arkansas needed to defend him pretty well, inside the 3-point line. They did that. Reasons for, like, some of the things that happened tonight that, make me think that this could be a turning point. Ellis showed up. Was great. I mean, I think he tied a career high in rebounds. It was either a career high or he tied a career high. That's what you needed against an A&M team that rebounds the way that they do. I saw a comment earlier, I think it was from Sam, about Devo looked completely different on defense tonight in a good way. I had Devo giving up 3 buckets on 12 shots defended. He defended the 3 really well. He gave up 1, I believe, on 9. So he gave up one made 3 on 9 defended. He was really good. Chandler Lawson came back to life. Tremont Mark and Devo kind of looked like that defensive duo that, you kind of thought that they could be coming into the season. Like Tremont Mark was literally, volleyball spiking some of Wade Taylor's shots out of bounds. Like you saw some dog come out from T-Mark defensively. Devo kind of the same way. Really encouraging sign for me, and me and Curtis talked about this a little bit too. Arkansas's ball screen defense has not been great for a large part of the season. Tonight, I thought the guards fought really hard coming over ball screens, didn't die on them. I think you saw like when a guard is about to get picked, they put a shoulder into the middle of that screen setter's chest, and I think that those body blows I think make a difference over time. So those are some reasons for optimism. I think. Is this a turning point? I don't know. Went really long-winded, but some things that I liked, like a lot of the things that we saw tonight are things that, if we had to make a list of like 20 things that we're looking for in a game, probably crossed off a bunch of things on that list. So I'm definitely looking forward to Saturday. Another fun crowd in here. Hopefully weather gets out of here and they can pack this place out.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, the one real positive is Arkansas's head coach did not shove an opposing player.
That's true. That is true.
Just saying, that's not every SEC team that played tonight can say that their head coach did not shove an opposing player.
Do we have
put a
quotes
hands
about
on a
that
young
yet?
man?
Can we watch that real quick? I have the video.
Okay,
I have
pull it
the
up.
video.
Perfect.
Yeah, because Nate Oates.
Pull up this assault.
Yeah, Nate Oates, Alabama playing Missouri. I'll let the video. I'll just let the video do the.
Can't get it to anybody. East now with 2. And Missouri with the offensive rebound and then foul. Whoa. A little bit extra. I think, and now Nate Oates pushing Shaw back. Nate Oates, his blood boils at times. Dennis Gates is as cool as a cucumber.
Okay, and the name and all that's holy. How does this man not get ejected? Like, I'm sorry. I thought that there's like certain things, like it was in the NFL and in college football. If you come in contact with an official, you're gone. Like, it doesn't matter. And I felt like it probably should have been the same thing for a basketball coach to not only just come into contact with the player, but to literally like sarcastic, like, just like shove him off as in like, sir, excuse me.
The kid could have died.
Over there.
The kid could have died.
Yeah,
it's kind of nuts.
He could have died, but then Alabama would just cover it up once again.
Wrong place, wrong time for
every
Nate
single
Oates.
time with Nate Oates.
I guess that's probably why.
So yeah, I know this is an Arkansas stream, but still, that's one of those things where I'm like, I saw that clip as we were walking into Bud Walton. I'm like, how? How in the like? Is there a rule? Have you guys looked this up, Scott and Cursive? Like, is there? I thought that it was an automatic ejection if something like that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I if it's not a rule, it's got to be like an unwritten rule. I mean, it's just the SEC bias showing its it's rearing its ugly head again. Like if Devo can get kicked out of a game for maybe accidentally Draymond Greening a guy,
a simple
then
cup check.
I don't think a coach can shove an opposing player blatantly. So whether it caused any harm or not, I mean, that's crazy. Like, could you imagine the outrage if Muss did that to a kid? I mean,
Oh man, he'd be
unreal.
called a punk by every.
Oh yeah. So,
The athletic story would have finally been posted at that point.
Yeah, I've laughed about thinking about coaches who may be in that situation, and it's like always felt like there was. I hate to bring it up, Curtis, but like when I think about the Cardinal way, there's people like who are say, like if Yadier Molina got into a fight, got in someone's face, they're like, that's my guy, that's my guy. But then if somebody else says, classless. Just unheard of. And like it was kind of the same thing with the Brandon Miller situation with Alabama fans, because every single Alabama fan and everybody was on social media just being like, come on, just get tough. It was just a soft generation we have. So guys can't shove people anymore. Like like that's the stuff where I just crack up laughing to see the different variations of responses to something like this. And it was like right on cue. So I don't know. Well, surely the SEC will make a statement.
I just need to know why Nate Oates thought it was his place. Like, this is where I need to intervene and like put my hand on your chest and then like shoo him like he's a dog that ran into his yard that's, you know, not his. Like, that's nowhere close to his place to do that. And I would imagine him and Dennis Gates are probably going to have a phone call, because Dennis Gates probably didn't want a scene in the post-game handshake line. I imagine they're probably going to be talking. They're probably talking right now, if I had to imagine.
So can we need to do, like, of the SEC coaches, how many coaches? Dennis Gates handled it with class, but how many coaches, if that would have happened to their player, would have literally like gone up to Nate Oates and be like, hey, we're rolling?
Bruce Pearl would have fought him.
100%. Bruce Pearl.
For sure.
Like, that's established.
He's no longer an SEC coach, but Frank Martin
might have, like, I think
Killed him?
you feel like he's got like a way of, like, he knows 9 different ways to kill you with a spoon type thing, like just crazy stuff like that. So yeah, I think Frank Martin, you know, like
with his shirt
SEC
untucked,
coaches.
with his everything. You know how by the end of the game he just looks miserable.
Yeah, because I feel like for him for sure. Trying to think, Calipari probably wouldn't. His suit's too nice.
Calipari would get someone to do it. He wouldn't do it himself.
Listen. We already know the guy, Vanderbilt, man. You know,
Stack would have gone after him.
Yeah.
Stack would have gone after him.
That's a good
Oh,
one. That's a good point.
That guy, like former players, especially, they would have had some words.
I mean,
Juwan Howard might have
of
actually stacked him.
Yeah. Well,
That's exactly what I was
Juwan
gonna
Howard
say,
has
yes.
fought coaches.
Yes,
I mean,
I'm saying,
like,
he would have actually pulled out a shiv or a knife or something.
he would have
and actually
started and
stabbed him.
finished the fight.
Yes.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah, that would have happened too. I don't know enough about some of the other coaches, like,
Yeah.
you know, like would Todd Golden.
I have
do
no
it?
idea
don't
what
know.
Tim McMahon, what his stance is on fighting. I don't know.
Is that his name? Tim McMahon or Matt? Is it Matt?
Is it Matt? The LSU guy? Is it Matt
McMahon, right?
Matt McMahon?
Jim McMahon.
Yeah, it's Matt.
I just start making up nicknames. But yeah, I don't know what he would have done. I don't know what any of them would have done. But it's still just, again, egregious, stupid, crazy that's happening. But yeah, either way. So guys, yeah, dude, we've obviously killed it tonight with our incredible coverage and was pristine in presentation and everything. Obviously. So final thoughts before we close up shop. We'll start with you, Scotty, and Curtis. Just final reaction to the game, and also a little preview of what's to come with South Carolina. How do you think Arkansas responds after a big win like this on Saturday back in Bud Walton?
Yeah, just final thoughts. I think Tremont Mark is him, and second time this year he's gone for 30, and watching him go crazy against North Carolina was pretty wild too. Tonight it was just, and maybe that's where Arkansas's offense goes, moving forward more consistently. Is that the best case, or is that their best route to take? We've talked about that. We're not sure, because he can, T-Mark can kind of be a ball stopper. He did not have an assist tonight, but also tonight you didn't want him passing the ball. Ellis, encouraged by L. One more thing on T-Mark, and I'll turn it over to Curtis. I asked T-Mark if he had hit another game winner in his basketball career, and he said he hit a designed half-court shot his freshman year at Houston against Memphis. So this is his second game winner in college.
This was light work for him, huh? Design.
He said when he was walking down from the stage, he said Kelvin Sampson drew up the play for me, and I imagine it's just one of those deals. You got like 1.2 left on the clock, and you just got to get it to half court and heave it. It was designed for him. He hit it. So tonight was number 2 for him.
And I love that after that, Scotty, maybe it was you that asked Muss about that. And he was like, I don't care if I knew that he had ever hit one or not. Like, he was getting the ball in this situation tonight. And I mean, he was unconscious. But yeah, I mean, it feels good, man. Right? I mean, listen, Arkansas basketball 1-0 since the launch of Natty State Sports. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm into coincidences or not, but I'm just saying, like, it's a thing, and I think we need to embrace it. And that was a good one. And yeah, looking forward to Saturday. I mean, South Carolina, what's their record now? Does anybody know that? I think they wound up losing tonight.
14-3 is what their record is.
3-1 in SEC play.
Either way, they've kind of exceeded expectations, but they fell against Georgia. I guess they were up in that game for a while, so transitive property or whatever. But both these teams lost to Georgia. They're coming into Bud Walton, a good opportunity for Arkansas to pick up another win and maybe get some momentum. Because they need it, and they got a little bit, took a step in the right direction. We'll see what they do on Saturday. Should be fun.
All right, Andrew, what about you?
Kind of crazy that only one member of our Natty State sports team had the gall to pick Arkansas to win a game in Bud Walton Arena. We're acting like this is
I
just
don't remember that.
this is no longer a sacred house that people just come into Bud Walton and you lose by 37 one time in your home court and all of a sudden you can't defend it anymore. Like I thought shameful what you guys did, but hey, I'm glad that at least one of us had the cojones to step up and predict Arkansas to win a basketball against a mediocre team at home.
Yeah, well, you didn't pick 48 fouls. I'm there. That was fine. So,
John called the 40. Well, it's crazy. There was a point during the game where we were like, "Oh, they only need 20 something more." And they did it.
yeah, they made it. They hit the landmark. It was great.
Like Curtis said, 1-0 Natty State sports era. We couldn't have picked a better day to roll out our pre and post game coverage. I mean, it couldn't have played out better.
I don't think so.
I do just want to throw this out there that I did pick 77 points for Texas A&M. That's what they had. I just picked 70 for Arkansas, But the fact that this game was not played in the 60s, for anybody who listened to the pregame pod at the Palace, that means Andrew Ellis, even though he got the outcome of the game correct, he does not get fried pickles. I still owe him some for some prior bets, but he does not get them for this game.
I won't make you buy me pickles, but the refs screwed me. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? We're calling all these. I mean, if it weren't for the free throws, if we just take a normal amount of free throws.
I will not confirm or deny that's the case.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow. We'll take it. My final thoughts is basically just take what we said in the past hour and 15 minutes and crunch it in. And that's my final thoughts. But in reality, Arkansas needed a win desperately. It doesn't matter how it was done. It could have been blowout. It could have been a game that ended 48-47. It could have been anything. They just needed a win, and they got a win, and that's all that matters. And moving forward, what does this mean? That's what we find out on Saturday. Like, literally, I know it sounds so cliche, but it's like people are just like, man, did they get it figured out? Did they have it back? Well, we find out Saturday. And if they play really well Saturday, and South Carolina's improved, not trying to say it's like some big win, but it's an improved team. It's at home. If they respond well to it, and they continue to improve, then maybe this will be the game that we look back upon at the end of the season. Be like, man, that was the game that it all turned around. But you can't let this game be in vain. You can't let this win be in vain. You can't let the performance that you had from Tremont Mark be in vain. You got to continue to do stuff. You got to continue to get better, and you got to continue to grow. So that's what it comes down to. But Scotty, Curtis, great job being in the press conference and checking it all out there on the Twitters and giving out your quotes. And you two are going to have, of course, the pod at the Palace available first thing in the morning with your reactions to everything that happened in tonight's game, right?
That is true.
Okay. So be sure to be on the lookout and listen for that, folks. We're going to have it posted all across the video landscape of everything, but we'll have that. We'll have some other great content for you as well tomorrow. I'm going to keep you updated. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to follow us. Be sure to like us. Do all the things that you need to do on social media to make Natty State Sports the best ever, because it already is. We just need the numbers to go along with it, too, with your support. So appreciate everybody watching in, listening in. For Andrew Ellis, for Scotty Bordelin, for Curtis Wilkerson, I'm John Neighbors. Same post-game show, reaction show coming up after South Carolina on Saturday. Have a great night, everybody. We will see you.